Okay, folks, thank you once again for joining me. My name is John Kayode Abusi, and like I said, my job sit at the intersection of software and product security engineering and architecture. So today or now, I want to speak about, in my last video, I spoke about identity and access management in AWS environment as part of the series of video I'm making about AWS security services. And I did extensively with an adjacent service called Identity and Access Management Identity, Identity Center. So IAM Identity Center for short. Now, one of the things I want us to look at here is that AWS IAM Identity Center is identity and access management for workforce. That is the summary of it for workforce. And I alluded to that in my last video. Now, what does that mean? It means that Identity Center is the recommended service for managing your workforce access to AWS applications. You understand me now? So it's a recommended service. If you want your workforce to be able to access applications like Amazon Q development environment, you use Identity Center. How does this work? I've said a lot about it in my last video, so I just want to kind of capture it to have its own video where I can just talk about what exactly it does. Now, it centralized workforce identity. That shows that when you have, which is by best practices, it is encouraged that your workload, your environment should maintain multiple AWS account OUs, using AWS organization. So when you maintain this kind of configuration or landscape, it makes life easier for you when you use IAM Identity Center. It centralizes your identity across multiple AWS accounts. The next thing is that single sign-on. That shows that it allows you to use a directory server even within IAM Identity Center itself, or integrate with external identity provider like Okta, like Entra ID, like SailPoint, and like Google, SAML 2.0 identity providers like that. So number one, or maybe if I can recap again, is that it allows you to centralize your workforce identity. It allows for single sign-on, and it allows for secure access everywhere by using your AWS console or CLI or SDK. So this kind of thing, your mobile app, it allows for that. Now, cross-account management from one's control plane. This allows for easy management. If you have multiple AWS account and you can just manage your IAM from a single point of view that kind of affect all, affect your changes or your update on another account, it makes life easier, management easier and streamlined. So the other thing is that it's multi-region resilient. That shows that this particular service is configured for resilience. It can scale across multiple regions, and it's integrated directly with a lot of AWS applications. For example, Amazon Q, SageMaker Studio, System Manager, and IoT site-wise. So it's a trusted identity propagation. That shows that when you create user, or maybe whatever you created, any resource you created in this particular workflow, it can propagate to other workflows that is configured to work with it. So yeah, then EC2 window access without shared admin. That shows that people can have you can create roles here that can be attached to some Windows environment, EC2 environment, and you can use that without sharing like admin password with anybody or stuff like that. Now, what are the business problems this particular solution solves? Number one, identity silos. Number two, user experience. Identity silos, I've explained that okay, you don't want to have multiple identity providers or like solutions spiral across within your environment. The other thing is that user experience, that shows that user doesn't have to remember multiple password and stuff like that. Number two is security risk for enforcing. If they have multiple account, how can we enforce MFA, multi-factor authentication? So and that helps us to remove the risk of shared credentials. Then the other one is enabled fine-grained auditing and compliance visibility. That shows that from a single point of view, you can have, like a compliance view of what is going on, what and what, service people have access to, and without, all over the place, and employees onboarding and offboarding. This is very important. The onboarding workflow of employees, will be more streamlined, more easier when you implement this kind of solution, because from HR to IT, to other applications that a new hire is should be using for their jobs or their roles is tightly integrated. So from that point, it could just be provisioned at one point and propagate to other services. And at offboarding as well, which is one of the risk security team always battle with, is that when you deprovision a user from one single point of single point, it kind of affect other services that particular user used to have access to. So this is very important when it comes to business. Business problems that this particular solution kind of solve. So yeah, so I've explained that this solve real problem within software and the product engineering perspective, and I hope that this helps. But one thing I will remind you is that I'm going to follow this video up with a technical deep dive where I will provision, configure, integrate, and for you to see how to get this done and to kind of bring this to life, when it comes to hands-on. Thank you again. Bye.